Be calling you a radical. So King Henry, King Henry turns 100 on Saturday. So they don't illuminate, they radiate. So one of the greatest war criminals who ever walked the face of the earth. How did he skate for all those years? Now this is important because I can prove this, and I have proven it. Hillary Clinton leaked emails. I got to go talk to Henry before I go to Fukushima. Now, those were leaked emails in late March of 2011. I want to leak those. Don't go outside. If you do, wash your clothes, take a shower. The plume is coming over us. So, Hillary Clinton, now I got to talk to Henry Kissinger. So, Kissinger, Ted Koppel, his interview, which Ted Koppel, nobody could play, well, Koppel asked him about being a war criminal, and he almost stroked out at 100. So, Ted Koppel to Henry, if you called King Xi in China right now, would he take your call? Yes, most likely. If you called Putin, now think about this. Putin has been labeled as a war criminal all over the world. If you called Putin right now, would he take your call? Nobody can get near Putin. Nobody even knows where Putin is, know what I mean. Kissinger does. Yeah, most likely. So at 100. So the cover-up of the Cambodia atrocities, that was all Kissinger. Kissinger is revered. He's still the player. He's still the king. They don't illuminate. They radiate. And you'd think this is all coincidence. That, got to talk to Henry before I go to Fukushima, that the corporate media completely banned the using of the word Fukushima. Kevin Blanch got classified. Now, I want you to think about this. Even so-called alternative media dropped the ball on Kissinger. So, but of course they've reburned because we had Bernie. Bernie has always gone after Kissinger. So, I got a reverse field. So, because so-called alternative media, Amy did a really good piece on Kissinger at 100 this morning. I listened to it, but I know Amy personally. Why would alternative media drop using the F word? And I've been told this by multiple outlets, multiple people, including Greenpeace to my face, the head of Greenpeace, including, you name it. Well, it scares our viewers. It scares our investors. They want no part of it. So they're bowing, the tail wagging the dog. So serenity now, right? But so Kissinger's war atrocities have set the table. Well, what he did in Cambodia that was secret for 5 years. It was illegal. You have to go to Congress, get an act of war. Well, went after Afghanistan to kill the Taliban. Went after Iraq to get a big old sack. Went after Vietnam to kill the Viet Cong. Freaking how boogeyman, they invented ISIS. Make it rain in Ukraine. Drone them, baby. So now every single president has to bow to the military-industrialized war machine. The first thing they have to do is drone women and children in the name of... Kissinger started that thing. How many women and children were droned to death in Cambodia? That genocide that set the table for that, we're talking 3 million. Oh, they tried him. In Cambodia. What, when he was 96? Too late to go after these wars. What about Fukushima? What about that freaking nightmare? The cover-up of Fukushima is the biggest freaking crime in the history of mankind. Now, you think it's coincidence. Now, we go back to Epstein. So I'm at the Helen Caldecott Symposium. I know Helen personally. I asked Helen straight up, really? We're not going to talk about Fukushima? The year before she talked about Fukushima, at her symposium in 2014 or 2013, she had Dr. Abrams there from Stanford, who's since passed. We have season in Arcade Tune at Stanford. He was going off. And, I know Mary Evelyn Tucker personally from Yale Environment. I sat with her at the Megan Rice trial. You go ask her. She's about 6'5". She held my hand in this Megan Rice trial sentencing. First time out of the court, the first person she hugged was me. Shit's been over. So, what happened to these people? Well, go ask Aaron Swartz. Hey, man, and Ortiz, I was in the courtroom with Aaron Swartz that day, out of the bone marrow trial sucked up. I was in New York City that day. I mean, January 11th. I invented the Million Mass March, me and John Anthony, on the Fukushima disaster, on police brutality, on all this. Yet, the emails that came out on Fukushima are just absolutely proof that who's running the show. They don't illuminate, they radiate. So, how come no media, everybody won't say, look, we're afraid of nuclear meltdowns, we're afraid of nuclear meltdowns, we're afraid of nuclear meltdowns until they happen at Fukushima, Japan. Kevin Blanch is the only person on earth that called him. And like I said, I've talked to all these so-called alternative medias. They all know me. They watch my video. They used to. They all got schooled up by Kevin Blanch. These are full-blown out meltdowns. Now, why did the corporate media? Well, we know. That's real obvious. The corporate media. The same reason the corporate media embraces Kissinger. Because they're imperialists. So the American imperialists, this is nothing more than an imperialist colony, thanks to Kissinger. You know, now, you don't think I have skin in the game? Let's see. My father, he was incredible. Special Forces guy, brilliant, genius, drafted Marine. Pendleton, beautiful, amazing person. Died in the prime of his life of acute elastic leukemia from being human lab rat in about Air Blast 1. My uncle who raised me, Harold, Omaha Beach, D-Day, Battle of the Ball. He's so decorated. He's since got my other uncle. These are his brothers that raised me. Claude, one of the most decorated fighter pilots in the history of the Vietnam guy. I mean, this is who raised me. I look up Claude's obituary and you tell me how connected I am. You don't think I got skin in the game? And then I get Teller, Kissinger was running the show then. Nuke your own man in the divided test site. Kissinger, you know, he goes that far back. He's going to be 100. Again, Ted Koppel's interview. Yeah, Ted Koppel's 83 interviewed him on CBS Sunday Morning 2 Sundays ago. Should have been dead on a Sunday morning, banging my head. So, well, people at this station, including right here on this show, said that we shouldn't even be doing this interview. Well, I won't hold back. I'll tell you what they say, Henry. They say you're nothing but a war criminal. You're talking one of the greatest war criminals in human history. Who do you think taught Dick Cheney? Now, think about Dick Cheney. Remember when the Democrats were the party of peace, the party of environment, the party of labor? And then you wonder how Trump won. Because Hillary was popular. They weren't about to vote for her. Turnout was so low. So, then they can't figure it out. When everybody wanted Bernie, how did Bernie not become again, who runs this show? They're imperialists. I mean, and you don't think they're tied to nuclearism? Let's see. Jeff King Bezos was born at Los Alamos. Now, who's Jeff Bezos' grandfather? Look it up. His mother's father. She was 14 when Jeff was born. His real last name's not Bezos. But her grandfather, on the mother's side, is Geist, the original Department of Nuclearism, Imperialism. Yep. Okay, how about Epstein? This place was at Los Alamos, New Mexico? What? You don't think nuclear energy is imperialism? It's the greatest control mechanism, these imperialists in history. These great American colonialism masquerading as the old USA. Old USA, my ass. We are nothing more than the old imperialist royal family. Now, the royal family in England, they still exist. King Charles. British, right? No, they're not. They changed their names. These are his words. That's who taught me. My mentor, he taught me. I'm his student. So, everything he said is true. The anti-imperialist, Albert Einstein. the anti-bomb, the anti-hell of a way to boil a plant, the anti-nuclear energy. And he's considered in almost all these imperialist circles. The DUE still grandstands, says he wrote that letter. He never wrote that letter. He never wrote that letter. He signed the letter, but he said multiple times his biggest regret in his entire life was signing that letter. Leo wrote that letter, the Imperialist. Now, Joseph invented the bomb. He split the atom. He became anti-bomb before we dropped the bombs. When he found out that the Germans never had it. They never had it. The Germans never had it. Remember the communique they were speaking in code? Baby never born, mother never pregnant. They never had it. They never had it. They never had it. He became anti-bomb. You know, Sokolov, I go back to Tsar Bomb. He won a real Nobel Prize. So did Einstein, a real Nobel. Now look who they hand him to. I mean, these imperialists. The United States started out as a, British colony. We're their military arm, is all we are. You've been tricked, you've been hacked. Went off to Afghanistan to kill the Taliban. Went off Vietnam. Holy cow. Look what's going on in Ukraine. That could have ended that a long time ago. But again, Tsar Putin, that's not a president. He's been in power how long? Remember when he killed the journalists from Brooklyn in cold blood? How many years ago was that? I mean, it's unbelievable that he's been able to reign as you stay in power for over 20 years. You're not a president. You're a czar. You're a king. And so, Lord Gates, Lord Bezos, Lord Musk, we've allowed billionaires to influence politics, to take over. If you don't believe me, what's COP, right? They're going to set the agenda for climate. That's in Glasgow, Scotland. You know who the keynote speaker was? I would like to welcome Your Royal Highness, who's now King Charles. Now, who lined up in their yachts? Bezos was there, and he's like, what was Bezos? I thought he was an Amazon guy. What's he got to do with government? Gates was there. What's he got to do with government? He stole the operating system, and he has nothing to do with government. Well, what's he doing there? They're lords. That's why. And the corporatist media bows to him. But why was the so-called alternative media? You go ask any vlogger and blogger. Go ask them. Go talk to them. Why did they? I mean, they first got on Fukushima a little bit, regurgitated a bunch of bullshit. But they went. I mean, I remember when I broke my moratorium on, I wouldn't do interviews. Remember? I said, I'm done with it because they chopped me, cropped me. I refused for a long time to do any interviews. I wouldn't. I broke my moratorium in early 2013. I did 90 in 60 days. Oh, my God. They were people at their kitchen tables in East Tennessee, all over. I remember a guy in East Tennessee. Well, before we start this interview, him and his wife had a podcast with the Fukushima expert, Kevin. Just remember, the only nuclear reactor built below sea level on Earth was. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, you're full of shit. That's not true. It's a Mach 1, Mach 2. They're all over. We have them all over the United States. This is how these people will try to frame you. I mean, I got in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, a podcast was interviewing me, and I wouldn't regurgitate his lies. And he wanted me to he pulled a gun on me. Plowshares. I mean, I had met him, and he was from Oak Ridge. He come and saved me, so Megan Rice, Aaron Swartz, Michael Hastings. Look what they did. Obama, what a sham he was. Again, do you know the ties between Obama and Kissinger? Do you? Well, I didn't know him until after he became president. He had me tricked. He had me fooled. He said he was a piece. Now think about this. He's peace. Who knew that I was really good at droning people? And then his personal connection, his propped upness by Kissinger. So again, I go back to Ted Koppel. In this recent interview, Ted Koppel's 83. Well, if you called Z right now, would he take your call? Most likely. If you call Putin, now think about this. I mean, if you called war criminal Putin, would he take your call? Most likely. What? I thought he was on the other team. What? These are imperialists. So, King Kissinger, he created so much of this narrative in the 1960s and late 60s and 1970. Remember, he was Secretary of State. You remember Watergate. You remember what he did in Cambodia. So now, because of the Kissinger doctrine, that's maybe what I'll tag this, is the Kissinger doctrine was developed illegal secret wars, which is against the law. You have to go to Congress. Of course, Congress voted for Afghanistan and Iraq when they never did anything to us. They didn't give war authorities to annihilate civilians, well, to anything in Cambodia. Kissinger did that. So these preemptive strikes that we do now, that's every president that first get in. My uncle is the famous neurosurgeon. He calls me poor and famous. Of course, he doesn't ever support any of my work. He's too wannabe. But anyway, he was with Doctors for Borders. And Doctors for Border, Obama didn't bomb them once. He bombed them twice, droned them. How many people did Obama drone today? Trump did the same thing. Trump freaking droned the shit out of innocent. Because you have to swear your allegiance. And these preemptive so-called strikes, first thing Biden did, look it up, drones women and children. Whose agenda is that? That's Kissinger's. So just recently, we got a senior Al-Qaeda leader and they come forward. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a bricklayer. He's a bricklayer. He's a farmer. He's a peasant. No, and they already backed up. The Pentagon's like, whoops. By the way, the only real peace activist that I've ever met is Manning, Chelsea Manning. Chelsea Manning, 2024. So, Kissinger is nothing but a hardcore war criminal. And people that try to panty paint around us as that's what he is. That's what America is. America is a big fat bully. Let their crumbling infrastructure, hyper-psychotic inflation, really out of control debt, poison food chain, don't drink the water, big old fat military bully. They're nothing more than an imperialist war machine. They're probably the greatest imperialist nation in human history, which is really controlled by global oligarchs. So we started out as a British colony. We're a British colony. King Henry, 100, still running the show. If you don't believe me, you watch the Ted Koppel interview. He still talks to Putin. He admits it. Talks to Z, running things. So the imperialist media, well, what about Fukushima? Got to go talk to Henry before I go to Fukushima. Now, who do you think leaked out those out? Of course, the good ones are all retracted. Obama. He was in the Situation Room. I know word for word. I'm the guy that put her up to that interview where he leaked out everything there. I put her up to the second interview when John Holden, make it so. That's the Joint Chief of Staff going to be Haas Cartwright, the Marine. And make it so. I didn't know this because I don't watch Star Trek. That's no Star Trek channel. When they sent in the USS Reagan, who's the only activist that really worked hard and fought for those guys in San Diego the Truck? Kevin Blanch. I remember what they did to my dad. They did it. I know so many of those freaking soldiers have been down. I had to go talk to Henry before I go to Fukushima. Barack Obama was flown out of the country that afternoon after he gave the famous speech, the biggest lie in human history. The plume is coming over us right now. I'll keep you abreast to know what I know as the American public in the Rose Garden on St. Patrick's Day, 2011, just a few days after. Remember Anderson Vanderbilt Cooper? Vanderbilt. Gloria Vanderbilt's his mom. Who's Gloria Vanderbilt's dad? The public be damned. So, he's in Fukushima, Japan, with Sanjay Gupta, MD, a man nominated to be a neurosurgeon. I hit my uncle up. I says, did he break his Hippocratic oath on Sanjay Gupta, MD? They said, oh, yeah. So they're screaming, Fukushima, 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 Fukushima. Anderson Vanderbilt, are these mellows? I had a guy named Jim Walsh from MIT. Jim Walsh was not an expert on nuclearism in MIT. Far from it. He showed up later, after that, a few years later, on CCTV. That's China TV. Maybe he worked for the Weaver State School of Business. Who's under investigation, look it up. The China influence. My old school, when we were the number one school business in the country. These are imperialists and imperialist wannabes. So Barack Obama, he says, I'll keep you in the know. Did he? He never mentioned it again until right before the Clinton-Trump election, which I was at the White House there. I was there that night. Play back the tape, Your Honor. Do you ever get calls in the middle of the night from, like Hillary Clinton said in her ads? Yeah, yeah. Did it ever happen to you? Yes. When? Well, like when Fukushima happened. Jimmy Kimmel, blah, 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 what's Santa Suzanne? I live in LA. What's Fukushima? I'm Butcher, what's cow? I'm Baker, what's cake? I'm a comedian. Who's George Carlin? Who's Lenny Bruce? You know the typhoon. Barack Obama, who knew he orchestrated the cover-up of Fukushima. I was at the White House on Remember the 5th of November. The 6th of November of 2013, we're there. It got leaked out that Obama had called in TEPCO. I'm standing right at the White House right as they go in. You know, this is the greatest cover-up in human history. These crimes. Got to go talk to Henry before I go to... So he's still running the show. Like I said, watch the Ted Koppel. So these war crimes, he set the stage, right? He set the stage. He set the stage for illegal drone strikes. Well, we passed the Patriot Act, and the Patriot Act, no one even read it. But inside the Patriot Act gives them the ability to do it. They set the agenda, gave them the agenda to do it. They gave them the strength and the power, and they do it. They drone innocent, like I said, every president, you know, Bush, oh my God, what he did. There's a war criminal right there. Cheney, big time. Democrats giving him a standing ovation. You wonder why this country's broke? Look at the military budget. This is all Kissinger's doing, these imperialists. So these imperialists around the world, they don't even have to have a military. Us idiots in the United States do it for them. We are their military. You know, if you don't think, look up the definition of colonialism. What is the U.S.? I mean, we tried to colonialize, what the hell? We tried to colonialize Cambodia, Vietnam. I mean, went out to Vietnam. How about Iraq? Did anybody in Iraq ever do anything? How about Afghanistan? What? How about they're in Africa now? The imperialists are all over. And who supports these imperialists? Who's their king? Come on. What happened? Well, Kissinger won. You know, it's that simple. He's at 100, still running the show. Lord Henry? No, King Henry. You know, the whole Epstein thing I thought would break a lot of this loose. You know, it took all those years. So I sat with Noam Chomsky at the Helen Caldecott Symposium. I'm like, Helen, what are you talking about? I'm a butcher, what's a cow? Well, I'm a baker, what's a cake? I'm a, anti-nuclear, well, what's Fukushima? You're really not going to let me use the Fukushima. Now, Mally, who's her assistant, promised me I had a speaking part. So Helen showed up late the second day. So Mally hurried and got me up there, read my freaking Fukushima, blah, blah, blah. Well, Helen wasn't there. Supposing. So I had with Noam. I asked Noam straight up. Now it's been leaked out at the exact same time I'm sitting at the New York Medical Academy. The exact same time, at the exact same time, he's meeting with Epstein. Katie Couric met with Epstein. This is after he's convicted. Now, is it just a coincidence that Epstein's Zorro Ranch? I don't. Well, come on. Too blind to see the writing on the wall. So Lord Henry, King Henry, 100, still running the show. So still running the show. Again, go to the Ted Koppel. Yeah, Ted Koppel's 83, interviewed him. CBS Sunday Morning. So Anderson, Vanderbilt, Sanjay Gupta are in Fukushima. They're talking to a character named Jim Walsh. You know, should we get back to these meltdowns? These meltdowns, they said it so many times, it's unbelievable. Secretly, on day 6, they come back. They come back on day 6. Has he ever mentioned it again? Do you think that's a coincidence that he has never mentioned it again? What the hell? What the hell? So, Lord Henry, I'm going to lead up to this because he turns 100 on Saturday. So, he turns 100. King Henry. Got to go talk to Henry before I go to Fukushima. Hillary Clinton's emails. March 2011. Stay tuned.